Hello and welcome back to the One Take Show podcast. It's been quite a while and I've had some time to reevaluate how I'm going to proceed with this podcast. What kind of value can we generate from the various content that is created? I've also been working on a couple of individual projects. They'll be coming out real soon, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. But meanwhile, in this episode, we are in conversation with Ms. Jyotsna Chaturvedi. Ma'am is a principal associate for Maheshwari and Company. She's also the head of corporate practice. In this episode, she talks about how can we master the skill of legal drafting. Now, there are various platforms that teach us the specific drafting skills, for example, agreements, petitions, pleadings, and they vary from court to court, from city to city, but there is a general approach that needs to be learned, basic set of skills, essential characteristics that goes behind the drafting, the legal drafting that is going to help a lot of law students, perhaps who try to learn them before they enter the industry, and that is all that this episode is about. I hope you really enjoyed the conversation because I had a ball. It was really an honor to speak with ma'am and to learn from her experience. And if you like this episode, make sure you like the video and share it with people who you think can derive value out of this episode. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, ma'am. Welcome to the One Take Show. I am truly honored to have this opportunity. As a law student and perhaps as an aspiring lawyer, anyone would really love to learn about the skills of drafting and all that goes behind it, everything that is required for one to master this skill. And I'm truly grateful that you've taken time off your very busy schedule to talk about this skill and to give us insights from your valuable experience and perhaps enrich this video. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Kaustubh. I'm also, great. It is great to have an opportunity to actually speak over your counter. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Beginning with the very principal question here so that we can cover the broader of the concept. What is your conceptual understanding when we talk about drafting or perhaps the skill of drafting? And how is it that you have experienced this concept evolve through your experiences?
So frankly speaking, this is my personal thoughts again. Drafting is an art, which you can always see that you inculcate that, you learn about it, but that is an art which develops as soon as more and more you work upon it, it actually develops. So if we speak metaphorically, so we can compare it to a white canvas, wherein you put your thoughts, you put your thinking, you put your efforts, and then whatever comes out to be, that is the whole product. So drafting is your baby. When you initiate from anything and then you come out with something. So we can't regulate, we can't restrict it drafting from one part only to legal drafting. So at any point of time, if you are in the legal industry, not only the petitions, not only the suits, but in every point of time, wherever you are a general counsel or the counsel or the company counsel, or you are at the law firm working, or you are arguing at court, drafting skills very much required. So it is indispensable, I think, to compare to anything. Many of the law aspirants, mainly the students, they have too much of attraction towards the courtroom arguments. So when you see the courtroom drama, it is like they want to be the best argument maker, best lawyer who argues a lot. But what happens is behind the screen, drafting is very integral. If you're not drafting it properly, then you can't argue it. If you're not convinced, you can't convince. So this is the main thing, the concept before the drafting, that you have to be very well educated inside, you have to go inside, you have to think from that angle, then only you can improve on it. That is my take.
Right, ma'am. And this is a wonderful phrase. If you're not convinced, you can't convince. And as the law student who perhaps goes across various platforms, which nowadays are providing us with various opportunities to perhaps learn particular format of drafting, for example, contract drafting or writ petition drafting or something of that sort, a basic question comes into our minds is, what about the general approach? What could be the essential characteristics which are required in drafting in general? And what would you suggest that those essential characteristics are?
See, while I talk on that, I would not go back to the bookish language or the provisions or the laws. I would rather concentrate on how you actually can develop your skill towards it. So everybody, in fact, law students are better known because we as a lawyer, whatever areas we are practicing, that we are very much thorough with, but we're not thorough with other laws, right? So in fact, the students are better known, better knowledgeable than us. However, what happens is the concept, how you develop it. So while I'm talking to you, while you are listening to me, or while I'm talking to my client, or while I'm talking to my boss, if I'm a say general counsel or a legal advisor at one company, so that is important, that how the skills should be developed at the background. The first and foremost thing which I think that is important, जैसे कि हिंदी में कहा जाता है कि हर एक अच्छे वक्ता को हर एक अच्छा श्रोता भी बनना जरूरी है. So
Right.
that is the main point which you need to understand, that listening habit. What we fall short is generally we don't listen. Uh, I'll give you a very good example. So if you are sitting before your client, or if you're sitting before your boss also, when he speaks out, you don't take it as it is. What you do is you generally reframe that there is something which is, he's going to speak. So you presume things first, then you prepare the answer for it second. So what, in the meantime, you lose it, the communication which has been given to you. So that is a human nature. You can't actually overcome that until you are consciously practicing on it. The first and foremost, so I would suggest, is the listening habit. So how can you improve that? You can either note down whatever he's saying, script down. It's a very good habit. You should always obey to it. You should have a notepad and a writing pen to it. Chota ho, bada ho, that's not a problem, but you should have. Second thing is you should nod, so that the samne wala is actually agreeing to you, he's that you are listening to him. Third most important thing is, again, repeating the same thing. You don't have to repeat it while you say that loudly, but you can repeat it in your mind, so that you don't spend time in actually calculating that what he's going to speak next or what I should respond. So responding should not be there. Until unless you are free from that respect, you cannot develop a good listening skill. And until unless you don't listen it properly, you can't go to the point. Many things happens. Client always say many things. So whenever you are doing that, whenever you're not noting it, and whenever you are thinking on the other side, what happens is you miss many things. And when you come back or when you draft something, and you lose those points, you miss out those points, and that is the main problem which happens. So I would strongly suggest that the person should first improve on his listening skill. That is the foremost thing. Second is, either it is a boss of a company or a client, they are not legal people, right? So they are more commercial people. So they will want to have what they want. You need, as a legal person, you need to balance between them. So what is expected from you and what can be done. So there should be a balance. You can't say no to a client. That is a very important thing, that if you say bluntly no, then he may walk out of your chamber. However, what you have to suggest is that what he's wanting and up to what extent that can be done in your legal field. That is the second thing. Third most important thing is the commercial nature understanding. I'm a legal person. I may not be good at the IT thing. So now when I actually work in an IT company as an employee, as a legal counsel, I need to understand the intricacies of that. Until unless I understand those intricacies, I cannot actually absolve a law or have a good drafting on that. Either I talk about agreement or I talk about the suits, I'm filing a suit against them. So, until unless you understand the commercial nature, so you can't, as a legal person, you can't restrict yourself to the law book. So this law book is just for your reference, that you are specialized in it, but you need to understand what for you are doing it. That is the second thing which I say. Again, then you should go for a detailing. Go dig deeper into it. So as a legal person, you also understand that while we talk about writ, while we speak out on writ, say for example, we will not go deeper into that. When we speak to a layman, we will speak in a legal language only, because this is my specialization, this is my forte. So I will presume that many things but as a layman, you may not know it. Being a legal person, I know it. The same thing happens with the commercial people as well. So with the client also, with the bosses also. So what you need to do is you need to dig down for more details. You need to understand what is the commercial nature. Then only you can actually you can do justice to your draft. That is my point. So these are the three basic things. And unless there are myriads of things are there also, like you have to be unambiguous, you have to be clear on your thought process, and please, that is one thing which we generally say. Don't think that if you write a good paragraph kind of a sentence, then you will be a good draft person. So the extent of your clarity in your thought process should actually reflect on your document. So it is the only difference while you communicate. So we take communication classes also. So what we generally say to people is, आप जो बोलते हैं वो समझना ज्यादा आसान है, because you have expressions, you have your body language to it, but when you write it, it is more difficult for the other person to understand because they can't see you. They read whatever you have written. So be very clear that how you write it. It has to be unambiguous. So these are like major take-ups, but there are myriads of things. They can be, I can talk one day whole on this, but I think that should not be enough. Yeah.
Absolutely,
This
ma'am. I think.
yeah.
Right. When I think about this is so important for everyone to really understand, because before we move on to really building the prudence that is required, or perhaps the real efficiency that one needs to become a very good drafter, the basics, as you have already talked about, needs to be covered. A little bit of a clarification on that, when it comes to covering the basics or covering the issues that need to be envisaged in the draft. How do a beginner like me, who is perhaps going out and working for a senior, needs to draft something, can pick up on what is important and what is not, and what needs to be included and what not? Perhaps talking to a client who is not legally aware, as you pointed out, but only knows the story and they can just tell you the entire story. How to envisage that story and pick out the important points and enlist them from a beginner's perspective?
So there are two basic points. I will start with that. One is, don't think that you have read the law. Say, for example, any section which you take up, it is irrespective of how many times you have read it. It is always something new which you will come upon if you read it again. So I always suggest my team that whenever they are working on anything, they should read the section again and again. So whenever you are actually working on it, please read the section again. It is irrelevant that how many times you have already read it, and if you think that you already understood it, that is very much wrong. Even I practice this, that whenever I go through something, I read it again, and believe me, there's something new which comes out altogether every time. So this is the basic thing which you should do. Secondly, please understand that everybody knows that nobody is over the tips for everything. So if you are sitting before a client and you don't know anything, please do not give wrong advice. Take time and say you need to check on the facts, and you can come again. You can mold your, as a lawyer, you can mold your statements to say that you know, though, but it depends from fact to fact. But don't give wrong advice. So that is, take time, research on it, and go ahead then. Other than these two basic points, I would also suggest, whenever you are actually going through that, first of all, the research on the relevant subject is very important. And like the case laws which you are doing, so if you are actually advising a client for anything on the suit side, or anything you are defending him, or you are actually making as a plaintiff, you are filing something, then always research on the topic. The research should first begin with the basic provisions of the law. Second, it should go to the rules, regulations also. Third, the cases which are there. If there are no precedents in that, then also how much you can relate to one particular case, that is also important. So give a thorough research and never think that you are done with the research. So it's always better to research on that and then come with a clean cut idea, rather than actually coming out prompt but actually being wrong in that. So the third thing is this, which I would suggest. Fourthly, if you are actually preparing that, you're drafting that, make a good skeleton. So it's not important that you come out with the whole draft taking from Google and then you start drafting from the beginning till the end. No. So prepare a basic draft. I generally prefer an idea that whenever you're talking to a client or to your bosses, because I'm talking both sense, as a law students, you would be, somebody will go to a employment with a company, somebody will go as a law aspirant and be practicing their law in the chambers or in the law firms. So at both places, you should reframe that what needs to be understood. Take your clients if they don't want to mail it to you, because many of them are actually refrain themselves to not write it. So first of all, prefer that the client gives you in writing, though you had a conversation. Ask him the whole thing in writing, always over in email. Second thing, if they don't give, you understand the position. As per my understanding, these are the facts, bullet points, and then send it to him. Three things which you should ask is: one, if you're preparing, say, for example, a agreement, what are the must-haves? What are the should-haves, preferences? Fourth thing, what is the major concern which you have? So asking the nature of concern is very important. Going back, if you are filing a petition or a suit, what are the things which the company, which the plaintiff is very strong at, and what are the strong points which you are making it? Focus on that. And other points you can actually join dots, but focus on that story and make a story out of it. That is important.
Right, ma'am. And the more I think about it, it is so essential, because every time I have perhaps attempted to even gather the information that is required, I've always somehow stumbled upon the problem of not really having a clarity of thought, or perhaps going through the basics that were required. So I'm really grateful that you pointed that out. And before we move into the question of how exactly legal drafting is to be impacted, there's one question that comes here: is what differentiates an average or an ordinary drafting as against something that is proficient, a very effective legal drafting? What is that differentiating line, and how do you characterize this differentiation?
So the first and foremost thing is the how unambiguous it is. So how well the person who's reading it can actually understand it. The first and foremost thing is this. Second thing is how well you are putting down all points. So again, drafting is different when we talk about it. It's different for if you're going for a agreement or a corporate drafting, or if you are actually doing it at court level. So how in agreement also, how you have to be positive. So when you are speaking agreement, it has to be like a consensus. There is no fighting which is going on. So you can't write ye nahi karega, wo nahi karega. No. So you should be more positive in your sentences when you write it. Keep your sentences short. Again, you how you can improve on your vocabulary is very important. So read whatever you want to read. It is literature, fiction, or if you want to read religious books, that's okay. It gives you a logic, and you have to be very sure about one thing: law comes out from logic. Even if you don't know about law, many things which you can actually think over is from a logic you can arrive at the law. That what is the object behind law? Everything is related to that. And how you differentiate between a good draft and a bad draft is like how incidentally you are making the point. What you make the what point which you are making out, that is very important. So if you are making on the point, so agreement, if you're saying what, as I said earlier, that must have, should have, and the preferences and the concerns. If you these four things which you are covering it up, so this is a good draft for the agreement side. Again, when you are sending it to your client or your company, anything like that, so you can actually send it as a first draft. So whatever comments he gives, please inculcate that. So before sending also, if you are agreeing on those comments, then your framing would be very better. Again, referring to those books, there's number of books, there is number of writing agreements on which they can they advise on you, like LexisNexis is there. It's very good. They actually make relevance to the UK laws, but being in the Commonwealth country, we have also similar laws, so you can refer to that. Again, there are many other than this also, there are many of them which are there. So you need to be a continuous process. You can't stop it. And I can still feel that whatever drafts I made 5 years back, I can still improve on it today. So it's like a continuous process. You can't stop at any point of time.
Right, ma'am. And this actually throws me back sometime in my law school, because in law school, we obviously do not have this kind of an opportunity to really learn how to draft. Although we have a subject, we don't have that kind of a practical experience as to what all issues need to be covered and how to perhaps create those arguments that are required. So when we talk about the argumentative drafting, perhaps like pleadings or petitions that are to be submitted, there comes a question here that how to apply the research that we have done, may it be case laws, because all that we have learned through the law school is not to bombard all the case laws, but to make an argument. And to make an argument, you need to substantiate the argument with the proper research, may it be case laws, journals, or whatever it may be. So when it comes to the practical application of this theory, how do you see the application of research in drafting and how important that is, especially when it comes to building an argument in your pleadings?
So, it is very important while you plead that, either you will make a reply, written statement, whatever. So it is very important that you support it with the right kind of a judgments or information which are there. Many times it happens that you don't get a, substantive judgment which directly supports you. Then you have to extract. And there, nowadays, we are very much, blessed with good research sites like AIR, Manupatra is there, which helps you out in finding the right judgment. But before it was very difficult, but people used to refer it to that. So that is again important, that if you are having a direct kind of a judgment, then you have to refer. But taking out exactly what is the major lines which will support you, that is very important. So many times it happens that the case which you refer doesn't make a relevance. I will give you a very good example. Research, how research is very important and how the case laws are important. We had a very important case wherein it was an execution decree, and then therein the judge asked for the affidavits on behalf of the personal affidavits from the directors for their wealth and their properties also. So there was a recent judgment which was there, which abstains the court from asking for that. So we could go on appeal in High Court and then actually took a stay on that as well. So it is very important that ऐसा नहीं होता कि आपके पास जो भी आया, you have to comply with that. So please go into research, find it out that if the lower court has also given some judgments also, then you can also research upon that if there is any chance for going into appeal also. That is one thing which you need to make out. So that is the importance of kind of judgments and things. And it is again, for every point you have to make it like, whatever the points are, like you have to preferably take it on that what are the strong points of your plea, and then you support it with the right kind of a judgment. If this is not directly supporting you, you need, as a lawyer, you need to understand that how you can mold it and then actually put it in your favor.
Right, ma'am. And my follow-up question to that itself, when you talk about molding the arguments in a way that it becomes very supportive to your case, because there have been situations where the facts of the case are not necessarily in your favor, or certain facts which might actually be destructive for your case. How can you somehow, as a lawyer, as an advocate, can you mold, or is there a strategy that you might have to use those facts in order to perhaps build a case which might not be as obvious as one reading those facts? Or is it really wrong to mold the facts in pleading? Should we be very straightforward with whatever the facts are and submit our pleadings forwarding to that? Or is there a strategy that we can adapt with this situation particularly?
There's always a strategy. I would not want to discuss this over this forum though, but there are always a strategy which you need to develop. You need to see what are the weak points. So the SWOT analysis, which we call in every person's life, it is also applicable on the every case also. So when you have a case, you have to determine that what are the strengths, weaknesses, and what are the threats and opportunities in that. So you should develop on that. You should take it out. What are the threats and what are the weaknesses? To cover up, you should focus more, as I mentioned before, you should focus more on your strengths. So like if there are 5 things which the respondents have done wrong to you, then, and 2 of them, there you are very clear, please focus on 2 before. On the 3 where you are also wrong, you can make amendments, but how much you have to open up, that is the thing. But again, it's subject to the condition that you cannot conceal anything from the court. So while you are actually making any statements in the courts, you have to be through clean hands, but otherwise, it comes back to you in other ways. So it is very important that whenever you go, it is a very important strategy. That's through experience which you learn. That's through experience.
Absolutely, ma'am. And one of my final questions here in this conversation, obviously, is perhaps one of the most important questions is, and this might sound really childlike or perhaps naive asking coming from a law student, because this is something I've always wanted to know from someone who's an expert in this field, is how can we build persuasiveness in our drafts? Because obviously, with respect to the agreements or with respect to the pleadings, there needs to be a sense of authority, a sense of persuasiveness that needs to be conveyed through your words, may it be usage of simpler language or complex language or usage of words in a certain type of way. So, how can we build that persuasiveness in our drafts?
See, again, this thing also comes with an experience first. You have to draft, and then you understand that. But this persuasiveness can be actually inculcated in your draft with the thing like focusing on the points which you have, the stronger points which you have, you need to elaborate on that more. And you have to actually make a angle that how that resultantly or you were affected by that, how your client is affected by that, because this is all about how you portray your draft into. Again, while you draft, you cannot conceal many things. So what you have to write in 2 lines and what you have to actually elaborate to a paragraph, that is very important. So for that, again, you have to go back to your strengths and weaknesses, that what exactly you need to write. And this again fact depends on case to case basis, because every case is different from every angle. So you neither of them, if you leave out on 138 matters, like which are regular matters, and those into DRTs also, other than those, every matter you have to understand that what the client needs are, what are the strength, what are the weakness, and you have to compile on that. Precedents, case laws, they play a very important role, pivotal role. So you have to actually work on that as well. That is how you can make a complete draft. Again, with seniors you learn. So that is how you
Right.
go ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely, ma'am. And one of my final questions, perhaps one of the most selfish questions that will be here, is how can law students acquire this skill? How can we train ourselves? How can we practice more and more so that when we enter the industry, we don't enter from the ground zero? Perhaps we learn something about drafting. How can we inculcate this habit, this skill of drafting in law school?
So, in law schools, while you actually do your course and what is you complete your syllabus, again, in addition to that, you should also you intern at places, many places. At many of the law firms, generally you prefer, if you go for 1 month internship, then they do not give you with a drafting work. But if you are actually going for a 3 month internship in a final years, like fourth year or fifth year, then they actually give you the drafting, some sort of drafting work as well, some of the firms. And first thing is this, which you can inculcate. Again, you can read through important cases which are actually available over net also, which is going on. So you can go through orders and, you can find it out. It is a kind of a general reading. The kind of awareness which you can have, that also helps you out. So it is a continuous process of improvements. There are different books, good books on the cases also, which are there. You can read autobiographies of the senior lawyers who have actually written books also. They actually give you a very much good insights on how things has to be started. But as I said, this is a continuous process first, and then this is an art. So you have to develop within it. So it cannot come that आपका मन नहीं है आप draft करोगे, मुझसे नहीं होता. That is my take, that whenever you want to draft, then only you should draft. If you go for कि ना 9 to 5 job की तरह से आप करना चाहते हो, तो then it doesn't happen. So for an art, like you have to have your mindset and you have to have that kind of clarity. The same thing happens with the drafting also. So it should not come out like but in the given scenario, this is also very difficult. You have deadlines, you have things, so you have to be very clear about that how you start. But this is a science and art combined, so you have to be very sure about that how you take it out. This is how you create. This is an art.
Absolutely, ma'am. And just a last follow-up question to that. There is a subjectivity with respect to drafts from courts to courts. Like, for example, Delhi courts, maybe High Court or district courts in Delhi, as compared to Lucknow or Allahabad, have a different style of drafting, different style of pleading that the courts generally we witness around here. Is that important for the law students or lawyers to really notice and take a note of, or perhaps practice? Or should we maintain a general tone of our own drafting, create unique in our own approach?
No, see, general tone is very important, that whatever you are drafting in a manner with the given strategies and other things, that is better. It is always there are some formats which are specific there, but that are more into technical and clerical side of it. Generally, what we do is like we as a firm, we actually practice on pan India basis. But I do in Delhi. I am practicing in Delhi, so I don't. Maybe there are some format changes which are required while I file some suits in Chennai, or but if we talk about the drafting of agreements, it's all same. So it is just how you make your points. So it is both different, but otherwise it is a technical, more of a technical side of it.
Right, right. Perfect, ma'am. I'm truly, truly grateful that I've had this opportunity to perhaps talk about such an important topic that I truly believe that every law student should be very, very aware of, considering the changing times and the changing opportunities, how the market requirements are now transforming day by day, and how we as law students and legal aspirants should be equipped with best possible skills that are required. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Do you have any closing remarks for our viewers, for our listeners for this podcast?
I thank you personally also to giving me the opportunity to speak over this forum. And to close, I would want to say that this is a continuous process which all students should follow. It's like from your heart, which is coming out. You have to be like that, and practice makes the men perfect. So it is like that. So this is the closing remark I would want to make, that it is not something, there's no shortcuts as such. You have to read, you have to practice. That makes you a good draftsperson. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely, ma'am. And I personally, I think every viewer of this podcast would love to live up to those words, live up to those standards, and perhaps try our level best to meet all those expectations that we are supposed to fulfill. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I had a wonderful time speaking with you. I hope you had a good time too, ma'am.
Thank you. Same here. Thank you. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you
Bye.
so
Take
much,
care.
ma'am.